Recording to the cloud, everybody. There you go. We're live. John Lavenia Success Mastermind, the general session of this wonderful group. 27th of July already, nearly the end of July 2021. And we're just gathering in our group, which is a mutual support group, a mastermind group. Those of you watching this that have read Napoleon Hill will understand the idea of a mastermind group. And we've developed that for our own ends so that we can all get together to support each other and hopefully push each other along, encourage each other and share ideas, all with the idea of getting towards our goals. So it's great to see everybody. I'm going to mute the mics. Apologies for some coughing and spluttering today, but I'm a bit under the weather, so I'll try not to cough and splutter on the mic too much. That means I'm going to have to keep muting it. Housekeeping, Ivier is on later on with Corporate Curios. So anyone that's available to watch Corporate Curios, 5 p.m. Eastern time US, which I think is 10 o'clock at night UK time, if anyone's around. So do join that if you can. So I see all our usual wonderful people dialing in here. And some of you will have seen Stefan broadcasting yesterday, I think it was, which was great to see. And I know Gail was on that session. It was great and very interesting to see Stefan launching his podcasting. So people are doing things. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm calling this session today, Action This Day. Now, Action This Day is something that Winston Churchill had on the stickers on his desk throughout the Second World War. In other words, this is something we have to act on right now. And of course, everyone's lives were at stake in that situation. He didn't just say, look, this is urgent. You know, we've all seen them. We can have these urgent stickers. This is urgent. He didn't have that. He said, do it right now. Action this day. And I wanted to talk about action this day in our own context for ourselves. What can we do? You know, we can think, we can work on our mindset, but as we've said several times, we've used the phrase in the group, we've got to move our feet. Move our feet. And that's something that came from an old African proverb that's been cited previously. And that is, when you pray, move your feet. So in other words, action this day, we have to actually do something. We can think, we can plan, we can dream, but we have to do something. And, you know, it always reminds me when I think about that, just how many great thoughts, great prayers that we had in our heads, in our notebooks, on our sticky notes, but that we've never, ever moved on, never acted on. I think if we all examine our conscience on that, there's probably a whole stack of stuff. We've probably got them around us now, the notebooks in the drawers and on the shelves of the things we were going to do that we never quite got round to. How many brilliant ideas could have taken the world forward, could have helped us, that we never moved our feet on. So today I'm talking about action this day, and various themes around that. So the second idea in connected with action this day for me was overthinking. And we've talked about overthinking before. We can spend ages, we can spend so long perfecting an idea, overthinking the issues, over worrying about the issue, saying, what if that happens? It could go wrong. Overthinking, classic thing. You know, it's never going to be the right time. If you overthink and overplan and wait, never going to be the right time. We know that. There's never a perfect time. There's never everything lined up. You've just got to sometimes push through the obstacles and say it's now or never. And there's a great early 20th century quote on that, which went to the effect that there is no such thing as bad weather. There are only good clothes. So there's no such thing as bad weather. There are only good clothes. And how true that is. You know, if we dress our mind and ourselves properly, we can go out in any weather. There's no perfect weather. There's no need to wait for the sun to come out on your business, on your endeavor, because that ain't probably ever going to happen. We get those occasional days where we think, wow, everything's lined up, but that doesn't happen very often. So really, we've got to push through, not overthink, not overwait for perfection, and go for it. And that's a great quote, you know, not waiting for that perfect weather, just dressing properly. You can go out in any weather. And you can interpret that, it all hits us different ways. But for me, it reminds me to act, not to wait, not to overthink. I love thinking, I love planning. That's absolutely crucial. Mark will tell you that from a military point of view. A lot of planning goes into everything. But there comes a point when you have to get out of the vehicle and get on with it. and you're on the battlefield and things are happening and you just have to adapt and go for it. And there'll never be a perfect battle. Mark will tell us that. You'll never have a perfect battlefield, perfect battle conditions. All your planning helps you to be prepared for anything, but it's not necessarily going to prepare you for what actually happens when you go out. You've just got to go for it. So this overthinking and over planning and not acting can hold us all back. Overthought to perfection it's likely to end up in a pile of perfect and not dones, as John would call them. We want some imperfect and dones. Otherwise, you'll end up with a pile of huge perfect, but they were never done. They were so perfect, we never did anything about them. Your imperfect and done pile at least will add up to something. Even if it isn't perfect, you'll have done something. You'll have at least tried to action your dreams. And what can be better than that? What more can we do than that? I know, though, looking at the third thing that struck me was this, to me, is like a bridge. We can look at the whole thing and say, gosh, this is just overwhelming. This is daunting. I can't handle this. What am I going to do? But if we don't change the viewpoint on that, then we're always going to stand there in fear, looking at the chasm, looking at the gulf without the bridge going over it, saying, how on earth do I get a bridge over that? That is horrendous. I can't bridge that. And just imagine in the past, a bridge builder arriving at a chasm, maybe a whole valley they were trying to span, a river, a sea, and saying, gosh, wow, here we go. This is a challenge. Do you think they said, I'm giving up? I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. Let's just pack it up. We're not going to bridge this. We won't do it. No, they go away. They assess the problem. They plan, but they get on with one step at a time, bridging that gulf, bridging that chasm. So I love holding in my mind a bridge, because no bridge is easy to build. And there's nothing there over that chasm when you start. It has to be put in place piece by piece, piece of steel, piece of brick, piece of stone by piece of stone. And that's the only way we'll actually get there. Give me a slight pause for coughing there, slightly under the weather. The other thing that struck me, that the fourth idea that came to me thinking about this today was, there's actually plenty of time to act. There's plenty of time to take those steps that we're talking about, one step at a time. And to actually calculate that, just to bring it home in a very visual and mathematical way, there are 24 hours in a day. Okay, we're used to that. Doesn't sound a lot. It sounds okay. But that means there are 168 hours in a week. Now, if we call let's call it a 30-day month, just a standard 30-day month, that's 720 hours a month, 720, which begins to sound like quite a lot. And then let's assume we take a month in days and we just do, we do 11 months. We do 11 months. We take a month off, 330 days left. We can work that out. There's a lot of time then left to rest, sleep, and invest in our future. We take an 11-month year, we take a month off, that's 7,920 hours to commit to our action towards our dream with a whole month off. Do you think we can find a little bit of that 7,920 hours to act? Because I'm sure we can. And I know I don't always do it, but when I look at that figure, I think, wow, that's shameful. Shaming myself, saying I could have taken more action in those 7,920 hours for sure. And you know what? The full 365-day year, if I did it every day, that's 8,760 hours, by the way. So just hold that in your mind. You've got 8,760 hours to play with to take some action. If only a tiny piece of that was committed, things would look very different after 365 days. On the negative side of that, we've also got to say how much of those thousands of hours do we commit to social media, TV, film, socializing, and all the other distractions rather than on us and our dreams? Let's say we spend 2 hours a day, only 2 hours a day on social media, etc., TV. That's of the 330 days on the 11 months I was talking about, that's 27 and a half days just gone on social media, television, socializing. So that makes me think too. And on the positive side of it, though, if we actually spent just 2 hours a day on our positive action towards our goals, that's 660 hours of action in this 338 hours in my 11 months, 27 and a half days of action. That's nearly a month of action. So on the positive side, wow, if I spent a whole month in action, just think what I could do. Just think what we could all do. So that really brought me up short as well. I don't know if that amazes anyone, if anyone's amazed by how much time they could spend on their future, how much time they could waste that they don't spend on their future. 2 hours a day is going to make a big, 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 big difference. So for me, there's plenty of time in this year, providing we prioritize, of course, and we plan and we time block. We've got a time block and actually say, no, I'm not giving that away. I'm not going to spend 2 hours a day on the films, the social media, etc. I'm keeping that for myself. Great quote. Sprung to mind then from Edmund Burke. Nobody made a greater mistake than they who did nothing because they could only do a little. Nobody made a greater mistake than they who did nothing because they could only do a little. Bring back the 2 hours. That little 2 hours in the day may sound like a little, but boy, is that going to have a big impact. So rather than saying it's not enough, I can't get much done, you build the 2 hours in a stack, one on top of the other. Look what we get out of the year. We get a whole month of action out of the year just on ourselves and on our goals. Really, 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 again, made me think. So the fifth thing then that sprung to mind was, let's not worry about what we can't do. We spend a lot of time doing that as well, saying, I can't do this, maybe I can't do that. Don't worry about we can't do. There are plenty of things we can do right now. There's always something you can do. We already have skills we can deploy. We already have knowledge we can deploy. The things we don't know and the things we haven't yet done, they're positive opportunities. They're not blocks. We can do a lot right now. So let's focus on what we can do right now and the actions we can take right now on the basis of what we know already right now. And by the way, we all know a heck of a lot more than we knew a year ago when we started on these journeys. We know a lot more. Some of the members of this group are now teaching people what they know, which they wouldn't have dreamt of doing a year ago. We know quite a lot. We know more than we think. So, we can wait for knowledge. We can wait for more skill. We can wait for more money. We can wait for more time. We can wait for everything. But procrastination equals really a failure to start. We're never going to start if we just wait for more of that knowledge, more of that cash, more to invest in the project. There's always a way round. But shortage is the mother of invention. If we're short on knowledge, short on skill, short on money, then we have to invent our way out of it and take action. But it's all about taking action. And, remember that the knowledge, time, and skill tend to increase the more we act as well. Once we start implementing our skill, it gets better. We get more practice, we get more proficient, the more we act. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. By not doing it, we don't get any better, we don't get more proficient, and we get bogged down and we stay where we are. So the sixth thing that then occurred to me is, well, yes, I have affirmations. We've all been talking about affirmations. One of them needs to be affirming taking action. It helps to commit to take at least one action a day, minimum one action a day towards your goals. That's something that we can all affirm. We could build it into our daily affirmations. Today, I will take at least one action towards my goals. That for me is a great reminder about getting something done. One little step today, we'll build on a step. Tomorrow we'll build on another one, and so on, until actually I've got a long way down my project line and things are starting to happen. And then the momentum will build. But daily action, I used to take daily action when I first started my first little business. Every single day, I would find a way to contact at least one client and give them something useful, a useful piece of information, a call, a piece of help, so that they would always remember I was there and hopefully call me when they needed something. So, every day, just a little thing can swing the balance in your favor more than you can possibly imagine. Can just mean that someone's going to call you, message you rather than not, or rather than messaging somebody else. All these things, these little actions make sense, and they really do help. They're not small things. They're actually more significant than we really, really think. Well, that takes me to the seventh thing, believe it or not. Just do it. We've all heard just do it. Well, I talked, when I started the talk this morning, I talked about moving your feet and the African proverb, when you pray, move your feet. And I talked about action this day. And really, it's not enough to think about acting, we actually have to build. We've got to build momentum and keep moving those feet. So it's not just about moving your feet once, it's momentum, doing it and gathering pace in our chosen direction. That is so important. We have to keep acting, not just once. And it's so simple to form that habit of taking action every day towards our goals. So I've just talked about taking action every day in a small way. Every day, if we start doing that, momentum starts building. We'll remember to take action. It will become an automatic habit. All these things are habit forming. And once that habit's formed, like taking your vitamins in the morning, remember to take a bit of exercise, you just will keep doing it. It pulls you forward automatically without you even thinking, just like one of Glenn's famous tractor beams that he would talk about. It pulls me forward automatically. I know I'm going to take action, because once I start doing it, I feel like doing it, I remember to do it, it becomes a baked in habit. And we've talked many times in the group about the power of habits. We've talked about Napoleon Hill and all these commentators and how they talk about habit. And it's so, so important to take action as a habit so that we can build action into our thinking and our decision-making process, the daily process. And the other thing I got to remember, and I always try and remind myself, the job I'm doing is not done until I work out what action is actually needed for an implementation of what I've decided, and I've actually started to act on it. Because if I don't do that, it stays on the shelf and it's useless. It's an idea, it's a concept, it's ethereal, it's virtual, until I actually say, what is needed to implement this? And then I do something about it, at least one starter step to make it real and start to make it happen. So we can ask ourselves, at least, having taken a decision and sat there and worked through the problem, we can at least ask ourselves, why are we waiting? Why would we wait, having decided on this action? Why am I not doing something about it right now? What's stopping me doing something to start this right now? That's worth asking ourselves, because otherwise we tend to take decisions, think things through, get all the books out, do the planning, and then say, great, I've decided to do that, and we put it away. And quite often we don't come back to it. We just don't get back to it. So if we start at least immediately, and that's part of our process, and it's not complete till we've done it, that's a great habit. Taking immediate follow-up action creates that movement, but it also commits you. We're committed. We've gone over the line. We can't go back over the Rubicon. We've crossed it, crossed the river. We've done something about it. We sent the email. We called somebody. The ball is then rolling towards the pins. It's on its way down the alley. That's the difference. And it's going to strike something, and someone's going to call us back or message us back. So we're not letting ourselves off the hook. Taking a decision and doing careful thought planning is great, but if we don't act on it there and then, at least to start, we're letting ourselves off the hook, because nothing will go out and nothing will come back until it does go out. So we can create a roadmap and try and map out as well all the actions that are needed. So take immediate action, but also map out the rest of the actions as part of the process before you put the notebook down, and envision seeing the whole path to completion. That's something that pulls you forward as well. You can then see the whole big picture. Well, that takes me to incremental daily action, and the fact that we talked about incremental daily action, small steps every day. It's better than perfect and no steps. Taking small steps every day, incrementally, whatever they are, builds. It builds your progress. If it's out there, even imperfectly, you've got a chance of it being seen, heard, something happening, somebody taking an interest, a podcast, an article, a telephone call, an email. It might be seen. It might be seen. Quote that struck me then was Abraham Lincoln, who has almost, by the way, as many quotes as Glenn has in his cupboard. The best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time, said Abraham Lincoln. The best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time. So we just need to worry about today. If we've got our plan in mind, let's worry about today and what incremental small piece of action am I going to take today? Because every day does come one day at a time. This 24 hours and all the hours I talked about that we calculated in the month and the year, they roll out one day at a time. There's plenty of time to pause for thought, to take those 2 hours of concerted action. We know we're going to get 2 hours tomorrow, 2 hours the day after. So let's start to really plan to use it. Confucius said, the person who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. You just carry a few small stones away regularly, things start to go down, the pile starts to go down, and progress starts to develop. So that's a lovely image, again, that I planted in my mind from Confucius. And then small steps can lead, as he would say, to big journeys, as Confucius would say. Whatever we do, at least consider taking a tiny action. Nothing's too small, just get our hands on. So incremental action is important, incremental action every day, but the smallest action is not too small to bother about. It's worth taking it. We can sometimes think, oh, this is not worth bothering with, it's tiny, but actually small action creates that momentum. It gets your hands on, you get your hands dirty, then you feel like taking other actions, especially when you get a result or a reaction. Taking small actions creates that movement. It creates a movement, it unblocks you. It makes you feel in motion, and we have to be in motion to carry on and get forward. If we're struggling with all of this and struggling with that idea, at least do some small routine and the unfrightening task that you can get done. Do something, however tiny, however routine, however unimportant. It gets you moving, it gets the mind flowing, and then you might feel more like tackling the slightly more difficult task. And then if that goes well, you might tackle the really difficult task. So I know we're told in a lot of the advice, tackle the really bad tasks first. But if that's overwhelming on a particular day and we're struggling, don't worry, do the smallest thing, but at least do a load of small things. It clears the decks somewhere, clears the decks for bigger things, and it gets us in motion. And then again, if we're still really struggling, we can intersperse all these little tasks with small breaks, pleasures like a walk, go out of the room, go out of the house, take a look at an inspiring book, think about some of the broadcasts we've had and look at them, look at some inspirational quotes. We can take a break. We can just keep taking a break. There's nothing wrong with that. We mustn't beat ourselves up. But if we can just confront guilt head on, we can do it by just taking action, because there's nothing worse for creating guilt in ourselves and not having done anything. It destroys our mindset, our confidence, our will to get ahead. We can at least take a little bit of action. We don't feel quite so guilty. It makes our whole mindset improve. It's like the sun coming up. So there's definitely an impact from taking action, taking small action. And that leads to big journeys. And we're all on a pretty big journey. And some big journeys have already started unfolding before our eyes. So I'll wrap up and just say, really, let's remember to act. It's action this day, as Churchill had on his stickers. Action this day, right now. No reason not to. But let's act continuously, not just one-off. Let's keep doing it. Let's take at least some small steps every day towards our goal. And then let's try and affirm the intention to act today and every day in our affirmations. I'm going to act today on at least on one thing towards my goals. And then let's make sure we got a roadmap pointing out the steps so we can see the whole journey somewhere. But let's every day check that we're acting on it. If anyone's struggling with all of that, yes, we can get an accountability partner, or we can get a coach. Because sometimes, yes, we go through locked up, blocked phases where we're feeling bad, feeling unconfident. That's when you need a mindset partner, accountability partner, or a coach. And there's nothing wrong with that either. We all need to be pushed over those hurdles sometimes. We need someone to get us through that. But just let's keep the big goals in mind as well. Let's keep the vision boards in mind, all the things that inspire us. We can't do without those either. That's really important. So I'm going to open up the floor and hope that somebody has some thoughts on all of that. Mark's looking slightly bemused at that point, but he's still smiling, which is a good sign. That's a good sign. So if anyone had any thoughts, I don't know if anyone is struggling to take action, whether anyone has kicked themselves at some point for not taking action, whether anyone sat there and said, no, I'm really going to take action every day, because if I don't, I'm not going to get towards my goals. I'm not sure how any of this strikes you, but it certainly got me thinking, as I know the biggest problem sometimes is having endless notebooks full of great concepts, great ideas, great plans, but just never having stepped forward and taken a little bit of action on them. So easy to fall into that trap. So easy. So, Edward, you've got unmuted there. Be lovely to hear you.
Yes, sir. How are you today? You doing good?
I'm good. I'm a bit spluttery, I'm afraid, so forgive me coughing a bit.
No problem, no problem. This is really a very familiar subject, very familiar for me, because, intentions are a fantastic thing. But if they are remained intentions, then you are never going to get down the road. And as you spoke, I was thinking about, taking action and being consistent with the action that you take. It's very important to really look at yourself and to know that you're not the coach. You need to have somebody else looking at what you're doing, because if you don't, you can keep fooling yourself or maybe lying to yourself, and it's not a good thing. And then, like you said, looking back at the stuff that we've learned and the sessions we've had, you've got to really realize how valuable they really are, because they're very timely. Like John is always very timely with his comments. I mean, they're recorded. They're recorded timely comments that are done by the whole group. So that's very important. Now, a revelation I just had was in my business. Like I told you, I'm transitioning, and I have transitioned from let me go out and talk to people, let me go out and see people and all that sort of thing. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't do that anymore. And the thing that really equated my time now to what it is versus what it used to be. See, I used to, leave home and drive 5 hours, and leave home and drive 3 hours, and leave home and drive 2 hours. And during that time, I had drive time where I was not productive. It was just drive time, but I had to get there in order to get to be productive. Now I realize that my phone calls are my drive time. My phone calls are my windshield time. So instead of looking at it as a task, what it is an access point for me to get to where I need to go. So, I got to make 80 phone calls every day. So now that just get me to the 5-hour drive, get me to my destination. So it's exciting if you just reframe it and look at it in a way that's going to give you benefit and give you different feelings, different emotions, different visions, just like the bridge builder you're talking about. So I commend you 100% on, bringing that to life. Thank you.
Well, that's a great way of looking at it. And, it's so easy, though, to get those 5 hours back and then squander them on stuff and think and not act. And I feel like doing this talk all over again, because this is so, so important. If we just kept this in mind every day, things would look very different in 6 months' time, a month's time, a year's time. They really, really would, because, you are now tackling business in a different way, but it will be so easy in 4 or 5 months for you to sort of lose that 5 hours down a drain plug somewhere and not act and not move your feet. So I think if I just put on my wall, move your feet, action this day, it reminds me that all ideas are great, but they mean nothing. They're empty until acted upon. And I think you're right, Edward. I think you're absolutely right. You can keep fooling yourself, as you said, fooling yourself that you're getting ahead, but it's still on paper. While it's on paper, it's still out there in the ether, but it's not real. You can turn that into something real. And they're great thoughts, Edward. Thank you. And Mark has his hand up. Great to hear from you, Mark.
Hey, Adrian. Yeah, we could talk this topic every day, I'll bet. And why? Because every day for me, I don't want to say that it's a fight, but it certainly is. Every day is a day where decisions throughout the day are those kinds of decisions. Do I take action or not? Is this something I need to take action on now, or does it, is there a certain priority that's established to it? I've said this a number of times. I didn't come up with these sayings, but I think they're pretty appropriate for some of the things we do. A phrase like selective disobedience. You kind of pick and choose what you think you need to tackle or not, depending on what somebody else might want you to take care of, or the tasks that are put in front of you by oneself, or shooting the alligator closest to the boat. It's just which one do you tackle? So this is something I deal with, and I'm sure we all deal with it, consistently. I don't want to say that this is a crutch per se. That might be, maybe that's not the right term, but I certainly, as you started this out, this conversation today out, it's the mastermind. It's pulling multiple multiple sources and energy and everybody coming together and relying upon one another to show, to be there. The law of attraction. It's the energy from the universe. It's all these things that kind of come together. And and I look at to that. I've used a number of people in this venue um, for setting priorities, for doing schedules. I think of all the things that um, when you spend a career in a lifetime, and we all have done this too, looking inward to oneself to establish these to get these accomplishments to keep moving forward. I think sometimes we, and certainly me, I become maybe a little bit too self-dependent on the things I need to do instead of maybe putting my ego in my back pocket and looking to others that may have better capabilities or understanding and skill sets that should just say, hey, look, you're having a difficult time with this, Mark. Go to this person and ask them to provide some input or compensate them in a business relationship and see what they have to say and use the information that they provide to help move me along. And I've done that, and I found that I've had some great success with that. And it's also, from, I guess, a psychological standpoint, it's also helped me open up to realize that I don't need to shell myself and just look to me for everything. I need to kind of let go of some things and look to others to gain that additional information and realize that actually it comes out to be a bit easier in many ways. Um, and we talk about taking action. I always look back, to us talking about Cortez and burning the boats. There's a place for that. Um, if one feels like they're up against a particular deadline or some particular task, and they just say, "Look, there's no," the, but that's kind of a self-realization thing too. I think they have to say, "Man, you know what? I'm coming up with about 1,001 excuses why I'm not doing this. I think maybe what I need to do is just whatever's behind me, take that away so I cannot retreat. So I must move forward." Now, is that ultimately the best plan? No, I don't necessarily think that that's the best plan, because then I'm scrambling, or I'm doing it because I'm compelling myself to have to do it, not because I had the time and the ability and the willingness to be able to work through it. Now I'm kind of forcing myself to accomplish that, and I can't say that that's really the best way to go about it. When it comes to accomplishing tasks, I've been doing this since, oh, I'll bet I was doing, well, I know that I was doing this even as a second lieutenant. In anybody's ever been in the government or the military, they've seen these little green books, all these lime green books, that kind of lime green sort of book. And I used to just put little blocks and then the bullet point. What do I need to do? And through the course of the day, you check them off when you get them done. That does two things. It keeps you working towards, finality on certain tasks. And from a historical record, a chronological record, then one can go back and look at the dates and look at the things that have been accomplished. That's much like Glenn's little thing with these, with keeping the little notes and looking at them at the end of the year to find out what the heck, when one's been up to. So, and then lastly, what John's here now, but what this whole group has taught me is to take a breath, to just realize that I'm not going to, I'm not gonna fix the world in a day. I eat the elephant one bite at a time. I hit the tasks that I need to hit, and as long as I am moving forward, as long as I am accomplishing something every single day, then I am making positive steps, and to feel comfortable in my own skin about those kinds of things, and just don't let me beat me down, and then kind of go into that negative feeding flagellation sort of, thing where I'm with the sword on the head and I'm like, I kind of got to beat myself into submission, and forgive the world and myself about these things. Just relax, take a break, take a breath, and move forward, and don't let it just don't let it beat me up so much. And I'm my own worst enemy. That's what I have to. That's where and this environment has really helped me out. This last year and a half is, boy, I wish I had had this thing 30 years ago. So,
Brilliant, Mark.
thanks.
Brilliant. This is great. We've had great contributions from Edward and now Mark, and John, the master of action, has now joined us. Action man himself. We've been talking a lot, John, about imperfect and done again, because the topic today is action this day. In other words, the idea of doing something, and the idea that the task is not finished. It may be thought of and planned, but until you've actually taken a decision, then you've actually said, I'm going to take some immediate action on it, it's useless. Now, Mark has gone through a lot of thoughts there. He didn't want to describe it as a fight, but it really is a fight in a way with ourselves. Both Edward and Mark have raised the concept really of fooling ourselves, evasion in a way, avoiding reality, the fact that we can kid ourselves and not take action. Very, very necessary to be conscious of what we're not doing. And I raised the calculations deliberately in the talk: 24 hours in the day, 168 hours in a week. And if we call it a 30-day month, that's 720 hours. And what I've been imploring people to do today is spend maybe 2 hours a day that they haven't wasted on something else, on their own plans and goals, and actually taking action. Doing something, however small. Nothing is too small to act on. So maybe what we could do after today is say, well, why are we not acting? Is it fear? Is it confusion? Are we just not clear on our goals? Because there's no reason that we can't take immediate action, however small, which when piled up can be quite significant after a 720-hour month, for example. That's a lot of hours to deploy on the things we're dreaming of doing. So I love that, Mark. And then don't rely on yourself 100%. Mark reminded us we can delegate. We can say, I'm not very good at this. I don't know enough about this. Or I haven't got enough time. At least somebody can help you. And really, with the modern deployment of the internet facility, we can get people to help us all over the world at a reasonable cost. We can get more done for us than we think we can, which we couldn't do easily before. Living in the middle of nowhere in a small town, it wasn't that easy. It was expensive. Now we've got people all over the world who are quite happy to earn money helping you. So we can take action. We can actually take action. And for me, as I said, I'm going to try and remind myself, it's all very well to think and plan, but until I've acted at the end of that in a small way, it's not out there. Nothing is going to happen. So we have to try and take action this day, as Churchill had on his stickers. Action this day, right now, immediately. Until then, the process isn't finished. It's still a thought process. It's an unfinished process with no action bolted onto the end of it. And some of us, Mark talked about Cortez burning the boats. Well, some of us may not feel yet ready to burn the boats, burn the bridge, and not be able to go back. That's fine. But at least take tiny steps, build momentum, build hands-on feeling, build feedback, positive feedback in our minds, and get us out there doing something. So don't worry if you don't want to burn the bridges right now and burn the boats. Just start doing some small stuff towards these goals, and then you'll stick your toe slightly further across that bridge I was talking about till the bridge has gone right the way over the chasm. Anyway, I'll shut up, and Janet has her hand up. But thanks, Mark. That was a great series of thoughts. And the wind jar, you remind us about Glenn's wind jar as well. Great way of reminding ourselves what we have actually done, the actions we have taken. Janet, how are you?
Hi, Adrian. Thank you, darling. It's great to hear you. So I've been making little notes, and going back through my note, taking notes on what's going on, trying to remember what it was. Anyway, I'm hoping that I can come up with this. So, I love this because I've been struggling just with energy and stuff this last week. And when I have no energy, it's just hard to see myself able to do more than just rest. This chronic fatigue is not my friend so much. But anyway, so I, take a small action. If you can't see yourself taking a massive thing or getting a big chunk done, what little piece can be done? That's a self-motivating thing. If you take a little tiny bite, then you go, oh, that tastes so good, I can take a bigger bite. This is good. So you self-motivate by just that little bit of action makes you think, well, I can actually create a little more action. So that day is even better than you envisioned. I also think that when you start to, you may have your roadmap, you have your plan, and you start to work on it, but there's a thing called experience. And the reason why experience counts is because when you start actually doing something, and Mark has talked about this a lot of times about, you have your action, but then you're on the field and you're in the battle, and yeah, then things change because it's not just perfectly, it doesn't go perfectly the way you thought your plan was going to go. So you, when you start to do something and get involved in it, you can revamp your vision. You can say, oh, well, actually, these things will put that in place better, and this will move. And so we're working in a better, more realistic way, which gets us there. And Shannon had told us things, showed us in branding and things. She said, take a big company, take someone, their brand hasn't stayed the same all of their time. All of their time, they've revamped their brand, they've made it better. So the imperfect but done concept is, we start somewhere. We get our feet moving, as you say, Adrian. We get ourselves along the road. We put stuff out there, but there's nothing saying that is in stone now. We can, as we are moving and growing and doing, we can come back and say, oh, you know what? I can design that a bit better. I can do something better with that. Whether it's our product that's out there that we say, you know what, I'm going to write that copy better now that I kind of see it and feel it and know more about what I want to say. I can do the packaging. I can, whatever it is. Even Edward in his presentations to his people, however that goes. Now now that I'm in it, I see it, I can now say, oh, there's a better way I can do that. I don't have to just say well, this was my plan and I have to stick to it. But the flexibility of being able to open that up and move it and get it better all the time, getting it better. So I think these are all things that just taking that small action, that little tiny thing that we can see through, that doesn't defeat us, will lead to bigger and better. And we continue to make it bigger and better. So thank you, Adrian, so much, and everybody for all of your comments.
Janet, that's great. And I absolutely agree. I talked about small action because I can't stress enough how important I think that is. We're just not going to be on gold medal Olympic pace every single day. Some days we wake up feeling actually ill, off color, demoralized, whatever it might be, but we can always start doing little things. And once you've started doing little things, it just starts opening you up. If I feel really ill and I've caught something and I just prop myself up, I think, what is the easiest thing I can start with? Because once I get going, it just pulls me along, and then I start the next task and suddenly it's not so bad. But if I tried to dive in on something really complicated, which is, I know what we're told we should do, start with a priority action first, the most important thing. Sometimes we just can't do that. And there's nothing wrong with it. We shouldn't beat ourselves up. As you say, Janet, we should just have a go and take that little action, and it creates its own movement and gets the body moving, gets our mind moving. And no such thing as perfect. Again, you brought that up again. And as I said, that great quote that I mentioned, early 20th century quote, there is no such thing as bad weather. There are only good clothes. So it's up to us to go and dress appropriately and get out there anyway. And you're absolutely right about that, Janet. There's no such thing as perfect. John always tells us perfect, ain't necessarily going to mean done. It's better to be imperfect and go for it and just build and evolve, as you said. And as you go along, as you said, and you take steps, you evolve. You evolve your plan, you evolve your skills, and things just get moving. So I absolutely agree with all of that, Janet. Thank you for that great contributions. We had 3 great summaries there of the issues today from Edward, Mark, and now Janet, and really appreciate that. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to pile in at this point.
Yeah,
John?
I'll just say a couple
Hi,
of words.
John.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Adrian, because you're awesome. Everybody here's awesome. Maybe we should start with that song from the Lego movie. Everything is awesome. What do you guys think? Yeah. Of course, we get copyright strikes and all that. So
Great.
yeah, I think. Well, I had an interesting day yesterday, and it seemed like it was going to be a repeat of last week, where I ended the week on Friday night just destroyed. Stats were good, not amazing, but good. But I found that there's a pattern, and I'm being a bit cryptic right now. But with my work, there's a pattern of overwhelm that can trigger like that. Like one little piece of the machinery gets a little bit sideways, and it's total Armageddon. And then I get to deal with that for the rest of the week. So yesterday, after an insane 14 hours or so, with our book study mixed in, which one of our book study participants said, "John, do you ever sleep?" Right. So they're kind of getting the message now too, now that we've opened it up to more people. But after that, I just kind of took a step back. I got a good night's sleep, started my day with exercise. That was the other thing I didn't do yesterday. I didn't exercise. Bad move. All right. So exercised, ate my protein and vegetable juice. Right. And I just took a step back and I looked at what solution can I put in to solve this whole problem. It's not a perfect solution, but my goodness, is going to save me hours and hours of frustration and attempting to juggle and all this. I don't like doing that. So the joy is also in the journey. I know we were talking about that at some point this week or whenever we talked about it. And I just got to remember that as well, because it's so easy. If we're in action, right? If we're actually doing stuff, then it's easy to get in the thick of it. And I got to be careful of that. The other side of that, of course, is here we are sitting around, not doing anything and being bored or something and listening to crickets, right? No, I'd rather have the overwhelm than the crickets. Okay, no doubt about it. But since we're in action, and hopefully we all are, then let's find ways to say no to things that are low leverage actions, low leverage activities. That's what I'm looking at now, Adrian. Look, we're not getting younger, right? So where do we get the leverage? Let's say, because here's the thing for me too, I hate leaving money on the table. I hate missing opportunities. And so this is just for me, how I look at, like, here's all the things that I could do to cause profit increase, statistics, whatever, right? And these are the things on the outside. I want to get those too, but those cost me so much time. I have to learn to have boundaries. That's a word that Ego reminded me of a couple of weeks ago. Boundaries. My boundaries suck. I am so accessible and available sometimes that, and that's the thing. It drives me crazy, right? Because it's because I want to be that for people, right? And so here's like all these customers and clients, and everybody wants John, right? But low leverage, right? I can only be in one place at a time. So anyway, I don't know if that has anything to do with your topic, because my first half hour, I was putting out fires, but just based on what I've heard from Janet and Mark, it seems like it may correlate. Yeah, there's only so much John to go around, and you know what? That's okay. So there's that. That's what's coming up for me today.
But John, that's great. I mean, it is relevant because I was talking, the whole title of the topic is Action This Day. In other words, we can do something every day to take action, to do something, however small it is. And as you're saying, we've got to create the boundaries, the calm space within those boundaries within which we allow ourselves the chance to act. And that's why I talked about the amount of time we can waste or not dedicate to getting forward, and how many hours there actually are in the week, the month, and the year. So we can just hive some of that off in calm space, protect it, and use it. But you do remind me again, John, of your phrase, the fox chasing too many chickens. And again, if we're too available for too many things at once, we haven't got a chance of taking action on one thing to get it finished. And that's the biggest problem I probably face every single day. There are so many competing interests, problems, issues that, yeah, you've got to set the boundaries, as you've just reminded us, and try and act, but act within a reasonably defined boundary. So you've got a chance of every day getting that task forward, rather than finding tomorrow it's a different task, the next day it's 10 more tasks of something completely different.
Right.
And overwhelm, as you say, we get into overwhelm, over availability, and the action is going to be diluted and ineffective. So that's the other side of the coin I didn't really talk about today. So that's a great reminder, John, that we've
Right.
got to create the boundaries and the safe space around ourselves so that we can take action this day immediately, because we've got the time to do it. And we've got the time dedicated to our key goal to do it. So I love that. It's very, very important, John. You also reminded us to look after ourselves, because it's no good if we're not on Olympic gold medal pace trying to do Olympic tasks. Herculean tasks when we're feeling down probably ain't going to happen. We're not going to complete them. We're not going to start them, or we're not going to do them very well. So we've got to give ourselves a chance to have a healthy mind, good feeling, healthy body, nutrition, sleep, all the things we've talked about in our yoga, in our nutrition classes. Those are important things too for taking action this day. We're just trying to put ourselves in the best shape we can be on Mark's battlefield, so we've got half a chance of fighting well. And that's what it's all about. So great reminders, John. And I think we've probably exhausted everybody, but there are at least hopefully all of you are ready to take action, because I certainly am. I'm going to remind myself to take action this day. I think I'll get some of those Churchill stickers made for my desk, because I love the idea that it's not just urgent. It's so important. It's action this day. It's not just urgent, merely urgent. It's so immediate. It's got to be done this day. So I love that idea. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I think unless we have any more burning desires, as John would put it, I'll wrap the session up. Just reminding you, though, that Ivier is talking tonight in the Corporate Curio session, 5 p.m. Eastern Time US, which I believe is 10 p.m. in the UK. So anyone that's available can join that lovely session, which is incredibly valuable. And Ivier is a great speaker and a great storyteller. So it's always a great and very enjoyable session. Thanks everyone for joining. It was so great to have the contributions today, but I think we've just got to keep reminding each other. So please remind me, all of you, we got to take action. Let's get some stuff done, as John would tell us. And even if it's imperfect, it'll then be done. And boy, will I be further down my track than I was yesterday. That's for sure. So thank you all. I know you can do it. We're all on the journey together. Let's act together and make a very broad road. So take care and
Thank you,
see you later.
Adrian.
Bye.
Nice.
Thanks,
Very
Janet.
good. Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah, thanks,
Take care.
Adrian.
Bye, Mark. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.